Hey everybody, I'm John Reardon, and welcome to a quick graphics comparison between Subnautica, running on the Nintendo Switch on the left, and the Xbox One version running on the Xbox Series X on the right. Before we get too far into this, I do want to give some visual spoiler warnings up front. While we won't be talking specifically about the story of Subnautica, in order to compare a variety of environments, we will be venturing into some late game areas, so you've been warned. Now then, as you've likely already noticed, the first and most obvious difference here is a significant drop not only in texture resolution, but materials in general. Materials that were once glossy are now largely matte. Reflections are pretty much absent. You'll also, of course, note a drop from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second on Nintendo Switch. That being said, as we exit the life pod here, I do want to point out how remarkably similar the water looks on both platforms. Obviously, since this is a game about crash landing on a water planet, it's important that the water look good, and I think it's impressive just how well the Switch manages to actually pull this off, whether you're looking at the water from above or below. It looks great, no matter what. So as we dive underwater, you will notice the absence of the light rays that filter through the water from the sun on other versions, but more importantly, you'll start to pick up on a difference in draw distance. You'll notice that pop-in is actually fairly obvious in both versions. That's never really been Subnautica's strong point. But the Switch does seem to be at a disadvantage here, with large segments of scene geometry appearing very close to the player. I feel like on the Xbox version, the pop-in I'm seeing is more foliage, where on the Nintendo Switch, that pop-in is legitimate scene geometry. We're literally just much closer to some low-resolution LODs on the Switch version as compared to the Xbox version. You may also notice that the fog appears thicker and even colored a little differently on Switch. And the change in color is a little strange. I'm not sure what's going on there. Of course, there is a dynamic time of day throughout all of Subnautica, but in some of these instances, we are like deep down underwater in caves where I don't think the time of day actually affects any of the lighting. I could be wrong. But it seems like the Switch fog is for some reason a different color. Now the nice thing is that this fog being closer hides what I'm sure is even more pop-in just a little farther out beyond it. And I will point out that the draw distance on creatures appears to be about the same, which is good, especially for the scary ones that want to eat you. You want to be able to see those from far away. Now here's another good instance of pop-in here where it's very obvious on both platforms. Like I said, this has never been Subnautica's strong suit. But on the Switch, you really see just how close we can get to the base of this lava river before it actually starts appearing in front of us. Once again, the basic geometry of the world is there, but a lot of these like more specific geometrical details don't appear until we get very close to them. It's something that won't have a huge effect on actual gameplay, but it definitely affects the presentation. And some of the reduced draw distances could make it a little bit more difficult to explore these environments. It's already a game where you're kind of struggling to peer through the hazy water, so having that be even stronger it makes a difference. Now there are also areas where, despite the low resolution textures and material qualities, the two versions manage to look very similar, like the outside of this station. The inside looks great as well, though I will note that as we go inside to some of these more complex interior environments, the Switch version suffers from more consistent frame rate drops. Now in these areas, you're generally not really like fighting anything, so it's not a huge issue, but if you're sensitive to frame rate issues, then this is pretty noticeable. Now, it may sound like there are a lot of compromises here, but it's important to remember that this is easily one of the largest open worlds we've seen on a handheld, and while it's not quite comparable with other versions, it is running very acceptably. This is totally playable on Switch, and I think the compromises they've made are smart to preserve what's actually important when you're playing. But let me know what you think, and if you're interested in Subnautica or Subnautica Below Zero, which is also releasing on Switch, we have reviews of both games right here on this channel, so check those out. Once again, I'm John Reardon, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.